going on here in Australia, several forms of genocide going on by the government, the politicians and their government workers. Sunday the 9th of August 2015, mentally ill street jabs. Perth's homeless are being sedated on the streets with long-acting antipsychotic medication as hospitals turn to last resort options due to a lack of support accommodation. Sunday Times also revealed one of the state's largest hospitals, Sir Charles Gardner, has started sending homeless people away with swags because they have run out of options. About 10,000 people are affected by homelessness in Perth. If we look at the history of this homelessness, this is what's happening here is the politicians and their government workers are actively killing homeless people. They usually do it by rounding them up in psychiatric facilities and drugging them by force, but now they're going out into the street to kill them. It is the same as using a gun, except they're using a needle, because what they're doing is pumping their bodies full of chemical compounds. Psychiatry is a very violent and dangerous political ideology, sociological practice that they used to all over the world for over 200 years to kill, torture, steal from their victims. So this is definitely a form of genocide. I don't know any country in the world where they go into the street and kill their homeless people. There was some reports in South America that they were shooting homeless people. Some countries, they make it illegal to be homeless, which is the 100% the fault of politicians throughout the world and the government. So actively going onto the street to kill homeless people with psychiatry, probably using the police as well. It's absolutely genocidal, and they've been doing this for over 100 years in Australia. They target the Aboriginal people as well. They target children in the legislation. They kill in the psychiatric facilities and torture. It's torture to do what they do, and it's all by force, because if it's never voluntary, because under their political made psychiatric laws, if it is voluntary, if they refuse so-called treatment, then they force them. So it's synonymous with Nazism. It's exactly the same as Nazism, and it is a political government killing machine. In each state in Australia, over the past 100 years, they've killed thousands in each state. They've tortured thousands more. This is the government. Driven thousands to homelessness and driven thousands to suicide. It's all politically government driven. So there's several forms of genocide that have gone on in Australia. Genocide against the Aboriginal Australians. They've got away with genocide already. The public has allowed it. The public has never stopped it. If you look at all the prisons in Australia, 2/3 of the prisons are full of Aboriginal people. That's definitely genocidal factors. And also, probably half the prisons are full of poor people, people who've got no money. For example, in Western Australia, this is in Western Australia by the way, over the past 7 years they have jailed over 20,000 West Australians simply for the fact that they've got no money. Excuse me. And they've done that under their fines laws, fine systems. The Australian fines laws are genocidal. They kill with those fines laws. The lady, Miss Dew in Port Hedland, she was murdered under the fines laws. They torture Australians with their fines laws. They're stealing from the public with the fines laws. And the politicians and their government workers are 100% guilty. The fines laws, I continue to advocate for all fines laws across Australia to be abolished. And they also kill with their psychiatric laws too. The political made law is there for power, control and money and nothing else. It's not there for the public, and they are killing Australians with the political made law, with public money and with using government workers like the police, using psychiatry, using the fines enforcement management, the sheriff's office. Magistrates are genocidal. They've used the magistrates for genocide for over 200 years in Australia. Judges are guilty. They're all guilty. The magistrates' court's used like a bank. It is really a genocidal process that is going on in the magistrates' court and has for over 200 years. That is the process they've used to action genocide against the Aboriginal Australians. They used the Magistrates Court for genocide against the poor and vulnerable in Australia, as I said, jailing tens of thousands of Australians because they've got no money. It's psychotic. The government is a psychotic killing machine and torture machine in Australia, and this is actively killing the homeless people with chemical compounds, forced injections of chemical compounds. All of these homeless people will be dead within 5 years' time, and they have killed, probably, if you look at the last 100 years, they've probably killed, the politicians and government workers in Australia have killed probably close to 500,000 Australians in government facilities, in the community, driving Australians to suicide, driving Australians to homelessness, torture as well in the government facilities. As I said, they're locking up a lot of poor people. It is 100% the fault of politicians, their government workers and the rich, and the top 5% rich. So while all the politicians are serving the top 5% rich, they are making the rich richer. They've completely 100%